is suffering from funding cuts right now. That problem could grow in 2026. The Trump administration has canceled more than $180 million in grants for the National Cancer Institute from the end of February to early April, part of larger cuts to the National Institute of Health. And the president is also proposing cutting $2.7 billion from the NCI's 2026 budget. Cancer is the second leading cause of death in the United States, but federal research funding is shrinking. Enter the Vince Lombardi Cancer Foundation, which began in 1971 to honor the legendary Packers coach who lost his life to the disease. Part of the foundation's mission is to help fund research, but will the organization itself now need some help, given what's happening at the federal level? And we welcome in Anne-Marie Moss. She is the executive director of the Vince Lombardi Cancer Foundation. So we've gone through some of these headlines of what's been happening lately in the world of research. I'm just curious, from your organization and your perspective as the leader, what's your reaction been to some of this?
Well, it is very concerning, in working with the researchers that we fund here with the Vince Lombardi Cancer Foundation. They're all wanting to move forward with these discoveries they've made and some advancements they've found, and yet they're not able to because their grant proposals not being reviewed, because there's much less funds available. So, that's disheartening to a lot of cancer patients and a lot of people we work with, because they want to see these advances come to fruition. They want to see them come to clinical trials. That gives people hope. So we try to stay optimistic, and we're really excited to be entering into our grant making cycle coming up. And that gives us hope in a way that we feel like we are making a difference.
We're going to talk about that grant cycle in just a second, but let me go back to that optimism and how difficult it might be to maintain that. Last year, your organization handed out over $300,000 in grants. The largest was supporting research at the Medical College of Wisconsin. Now, that's an impressive total from a single organization, right? But in the context of the cuts that are proposed to the National Cancer Institute from the federal government at $2.7 billion, again, that's just proposed. That can be deflating, right? It seems like the money is leaving faster than you can replenish it.
It's a great observation, Chris. The numbers don't lie, right? When we're able to grant, $300,000, $400,000 at a time, compare that to, millions and billions that are being lost, it's hard to feel like you are making a difference. That being said, the types of research that foundations like us fund is often the research at the beginning stages. So they're really working to make those discoveries. They're taking hypotheses and then they're testing them. And then when they find something that's successful in either halting progress or decreasing progress or potentially stopping the cancer cells from developing entirely, that does not take a lot of money, is what we found. So when we make a grant to the Medical College of Wisconsin for $80,000, they're able to translate that into meaningful results. And they're on a very small scale. So it's why the work we do is important, so that they can find those discoveries on that smaller scale. And then it's why the NIH type funding is important, because that allows it to be replicated in a much broader scope, working more with direct patients and clinical trials. So it really is like a symbiotic kind of environmental funding scenario. And we don't want to lose heart, and we do recognize the importance of that seed research funding, so that people can start with those theories and ideas to get to the next exciting and impactful, innovative treatment.
Anne-Marie, if there, assuming there are many organizations like yours, there's a lot of private funding that goes into research. We all understand that. But if your role has always been to be the seed, if you will, at the beginning, has there been discussion amongst you and other organizations about how maybe you can go to the next step if it's necessary, if all this federal funding to make these things larger efforts goes away?
This is all new, right?
Yeah, very new.
These things have happened in the past minimum months, right? So no, there hasn't been direct conversation on how we can come together to really stop that gap. I think we're all leaning into the resources we have. For us at the Vince Lombardi Cancer Foundation, that means our grant making cycle happening starting August 1st. So we're really excited to invite people to join us in making an impact. Collectively, when we all contribute to a private foundation like ours, we all make a bigger impact and can grant more funds. So that's the immediate focus, I think, for us and many private foundations like us. And then depending on where things are in the next few months, I'm sure we will have those larger conversations, more as I'll say, industry working to support cancer research and treatment programs on what we can do on a larger scale.
That grant cycle, as you mentioned, begins August 1st, which means your grant application process is open now until the end of July. Not a lot of time left. But what would your message be to those who have yet to apply for those grants?
Oh, please do submit an application, especially for patient support programs. It's very important to us that we are supporting our friends and neighbors and family right here in Wisconsin. So the patient support programs locally, in Green Bay, Milwaukee, Madison, those are things that we're really also interested in doing. The Vince Lombardi Cancer Foundation's mission is to partner with programs working to prevent cancer, provide superior patient care, and ultimately find a cure. So we have 3 areas in which people may apply. And while I do believe the majority of our funding will go to research, especially in today's environment and the things we've just been talking about, Chris, those headlines that you were referencing, there is an area for that patient support program. And I'd be remiss if I didn't also emphasize the prevention, the early detection.
Yes.
That is key in any type of cancer treatment program. If you find it early, you have the best chances of successful outcomes. So we do really appreciate the applications that are reaching underserved populations with maybe a mobile screening unit that are encouraging, colon cancer screenings and colonoscopies early. So that all those areas are of interest. And I know it's a little bit of time left. However, 10 days to complete an application, we would really welcome it.
All right, terrific. Anne-Marie, thanks so much for this. Thanks for the insight. Thanks for what you do. We appreciate the time.
Oh, Chris, thanks so much for having us. We really invite everyone to participate in our mission, visiting lombardifoundation.org for their chance to get involved and join us in this work right now.